Awesome. Well, let's make a start. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. So my name is Toby Sykes, and I run the global data engineering practice here at QuantumBlack. I am super excited to be hosting this webinar. We get lots of questions about data engineering at QuantumBlack and what we do. So this is designed to be an insight into our world and the type of work that we do and how we do it. I am joined here today by Bhagya, Tom, and Benedict from the Guild. Do you guys just want to give yourselves a quick introduction? Bhagya, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Toby. I'm Bhagya Reddy. I'm a principal data engineer in QuantumBlack McKinsey, and I'm working here for almost 3.5 years. And excited to have this session.
Thank you. Tom?
Hey, so I'm Tom Vigras, junior principal engineer with QuantumBlack. About 2 years here, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Thank you. And Benny?
Hey, I'm Benny, senior data engineer, and I joined in September last year.
Great, thank you, and thank you all for taking the time as well to join us on this webinar and to share your insights, your experiences, and your thoughts to our attendees. So just before we get into the meat of the kind of the questions and the discussion, I'll just give everyone a quick overview of who QuantumBlack are and what we do. So we are the Center of Innovation and Excellence at McKinsey. We help organizations around the world become data-driven and use advanced analytics to solve complex business problems and realize business benefits. We're about 400 people and growing. I joined about 4 years ago now, when there were 30 people just before the acquisition. And so we've scaled incredibly over the last few years, and it's been very exciting to be a part of that. We've not just scaled in terms of numbers, but also in terms of geography. So we have offices all over the world now, in North America, South America, in Europe, in India, in Asia, and in Australia. So our world domination is pressing ahead quite well. And as you know, we're part of McKinsey, which is a good place to be in terms of blending our kind of tech startup culture and approach with domain and industry expertise that an organization like McKinsey brings. Great. Okay. Well, let's get into the questions. So, in terms of kind of data engineering at QuantumBlack, how would you describe kind of what we do and how you think it might differ from what data engineers do in other companies? And I'm going to throw that question first to Bhagya.
Sure, Toby. Thank you for the question. First of all, we are running data engineering for data science meetup as well, just to make sure all the data engineers, whoever is there, have their opinions sorted, and as well as, to know exactly what we are doing and as well as what others doing. This is all my observations, also the experience over the years. So as a QuantumBlack data engineer, what we do is we often work with the guilds like data science, machine learning engineers, and as well as visual designer experts. And we do problem solving based on the problem what the client is having. Also work with very cut-edge technologies such as PySpark, Python, and all of that. Apart from that, also we are very heavily involved in doing feature engineering as well, like understanding what data is required for the data science, also working together with the CEOs, CTOs, also partners to understand what does that mean to them, basically, not just getting the data, transforming it, and loading it. We are doing beyond that and building the features, also the data pipelines which are stable and productionized, ready for the solution. Also using so many open source solutions. Example, Kedro is one of the open source solution which we are using for the pipelines, and the clients are absolutely loving it as well.
Thank you, Bagga. That's a good comprehensive response. Tom, what do you think's special about being a data engineer at QuantumBlack to you? What excites you the most about working at QB?
Relative to other places I've been, it seems like data engineering is not necessarily a niche that's explicitly carved out. Some places do have it, but a lot of places it's not clearly defined what that role is. And I'll admit it's pretty nebulous. It touches a lot of things, but it's quite nice to have that segregation. The teams obviously all interact with each other, but you can truly specialize in being the one that knows literally everything there is to know about Spark. You can be the one who is an absolute wizard at, I don't know, NLP feature engineering or something, and really sort of drive home a sort of an area that you focus on. Previously, I've been sort of a data scientist, but as everyone knows, 80% of that is chewing through data. If you don't have the support structures around to sort of to productionize those systems, to sort of productionize that data. And yeah, I'm all right at statistics. I'm all right at UX, but if you have a passion, you want to drive that home. That's one thing that I think QuantumBlack really nails, is having that sort of that area to really home in on.
Thank you. And Ben, you've come from a kind of a non-consulting background, and you've come in as a data engineer here at QuantumBlack relatively recently. How do you think your role as a data engineer here is different to how you've played the role as a software engineer previously?
Yeah, sure. So I think the actual technology and the tech stack and what you're building is not necessarily that different, right? So from being kind of a software / data engineer in a product company, which is where I come from. So yeah, like has been mentioned, we use Python and PySpark and all that stuff. I think what is really different is the way that we work. And I think the fact that our teams are actually so interdisciplinary. So in your day-to-day work, like the people you work the closest with, you might be the only data engineer, and you're working so closely with kind of data scientists, architects, analysts, and you're all working together to solve a problem, which I think as a product company, ideally you do want to be set up that way as well. But it's difficult, I think, in a product company to really nail that. But that's something at QB that I think we truly nailed.
Thank you. We've talked about a kind of a broad range of responsibilities for our data engineers and technologies that we use. How would you describe a kind of a typical day? What are the typical challenges that you face? If you could just bring this to life a bit. Tom, do you want to go first?
Yeah, sure. So we run projects generally in sprints. So talking about my sort of week so far, we're halfway through a sprint to deliver some MVP very early in the project pipeline. So I'm banging down doors at the minute to chase down data sets to feed this engine we want to build, basically. So projects go through phases, right? So at the minute, it's a lot of data comprehension, a lot of unblocking, trying to get access to systems and set things up in a nice working manner. Meetings with our MLE machine learning engineers to help set up comprehensive CI solutions. So we're sort of like set with like a really nice smooth working pattern going forwards. And later in the project, it'll probably be more sort of well-defined small tasks which we can blitz through, single sort of technical deliverables, and then starting to feed back insights back to the business. So that'll be meetings with the business owners who want to see what's coming out of this pipeline, not just what the model's telling them, but also sort of is there any interesting insights from this data? We'll be pulling together things that they've never seen in one place before and drawing dots between them, which they've never thought to even do. So there's often some interesting insights pouring out of these things. So yeah, it's really sprawling. I can't honestly say what a normal day looks like. It's yeah, there's a lot going on.
Thank you. And Bagga, you've been working in this space for a while. In terms of the kind of day-to-day challenges that you've seen, how have they evolved over the last few years in terms of your role as a data engineer? What are you seeing? What are you facing today that you probably weren't facing a few years ago?
Right. So it's been like 14 years I'm working with the data, and I have seen the tremendous change from the big data, like a traditional data warehouse, to the big data world where we are right now. So the challenges, I would say, is the data, what we are creating every day, billions and millions and terabytes of data. So whenever we go to the client and talk about the data, there've been like lots of data, and to solve one problem we literally not sure where to go and what to pick. So for that, we I would say, like, I am so thankful to be in QB and McKinsey, where we have defined the problem solving solutions, where I actually know what to look for and where to look for and the technologies to use. It comes with a lot of training, I would say. Like 3.5 years back, when I started working on the big data solutions with QB as well, like we are using Informatica in a couple of projects where we are just dealing with some gigabytes of data where the ETL is literally solving it, and solution, these two used to work well. Whereas after a certain point of time, we literally started looking at like terabytes of data, and to process terabytes of data in the ETL batch files or Informatica, that's not really the ideal way. So we started thinking about what's the solution would be, and the technology started using. Some of them started liking Scala, and some of them started using Python. So there are a lot of Python and Scala happened for a year, I guess. And later on, after a certain point of time, we started realizing Python is where actually the world is leading to. And we started using it so often, and also Spark. So that's I would say the evolution of the technologies and the evolution of data started and throwing. And nowadays the clients also started realizing they have lots of data to deal with, and what are the kind of pipelines they have to build in order to get the value out of the data. As you have a lot of data, you have lots of insights to get out of that. So if you concentrate on the particular data, what you need, and also implement the right technology to it, that's the beauty you would get to. And combining that one with the data scientist solutions is where you will see the world evolving and you getting the right benefit out of the data.
Yeah, to add to that, actually, I think negotiating our way through all these sort of proprietary ETL tools and ending up with Python as a decision is, I think, quite an important one, because I think it really helped bridge the gap between the engineering and the science, because the code repository, sharing utilities between ourselves, and yeah, it's really sort of a fusion between those teams.
Thank you, Tom. Sorry, you cut out a bit there in the middle. That's all right. No worries. You know, we've had a couple of questions coming in, which is great. It's good to keep this interactive. So, Benny, do you just want to talk a bit about, you know, we talk about all of these technologies that are available, and we know in the world of analytics, you know, technologies have massively proliferated, and there are, you know, 1,000 big data tools to choose from to do various things. What's kind of the core tech stack that you worked in your latest engagement? And what are you most excited about in terms of kind of technology for data engineers, or technological approaches for data engineers going forwards?
Okay, so yeah, I've been on one client engagement so far, so it might be a bit anecdotal, but I think it's fairly typical. So the tech stack we were using was Python and PySpark, and we used Kedro, which is the open sourced kind of machine learning pipeline framework from QuantumBlack. And so I think that's fairly standard, right, across our projects. So I really enjoyed using Kedro. So my previous experience was basically building these machine learning pipelines from scratch, right? And it was so refreshing to have a framework which basically takes away so much of the boilerplate code and lets you focus on the actual interesting bits of the data pipeline. So that's something that I really enjoyed. And I think in terms of what I'm excited about going forward, I think it's even more tools like Kedro, which allows us to move away from kind of reinventing the wheel over and over. And, you know, that's automating that part of it. And for us to truly be able to be kind of creative engineers and problem solvers and focus on the really interesting parts of building the pipeline. Yeah, so that's something I'm super excited about. In general, I would say I'm very excited about kind of more data becoming available to more people. And I think one of the things that I want to focus on this year is synthetic data. So this is where basically if you have a data set that you want to share, but it has some private data, maybe some personal data, so you're not able to share it widely, you can train a machine learning model on that data set. And that model is then able to spit out kind of a shadow data set, which you can open up to your organization or kind of as open data. And I think that's really gonna push for a more kind of data-driven culture, and just, yeah, get more people to kind of, yeah, have access to more data, basically.
Thank you, thank you. And as we work with our, you know, with the organisations that we serve, we often, you know, work within their technology stacks, their cloud environments. How do you feel, Tom, you know, kind of QuantumBlack supports you to be able to understand and work in those technologies and help train you, and you get the learning that you need to be effective?
Yeah, as you say, it's not every client wants exactly the tooling that you are familiar with. So we'll turn up and they are wedded to their Oracle system, and that's just a part of the process. You have to work around these bounds. But in terms of training and the sort of the flexibility of the teams, it's quite nice to just post a completely absurdly specific question on Slack to the guild, and somebody will come out of the weeds who knows exactly how this system works, and will know. I know how to make COBOL talk to SQL Server 2015. Like, I did that back when I was making satellites or something. I'm like, how is this in the guild? This is insane. So yeah, there's sort of like, there's obviously the community part of it. There's a lot of experience. There's a lot of people that you can lean on if you have questions around these things. And then of course, like, training is always available through McKinsey, through QuantumBlack. That's a really helpful part of it. But I think you get a lot more out of working with people that have experienced these systems, and that's the real big win, I think. Yeah, for QB.
Thank you. And I think if I reflect as well on my journey at QuantumBlack for the last kind of 4 years, where certainly in the space of analytics and data science, we've moved from a world of experimentation and proving out value to where, you know, these solutions, these analytical solutions and products need to be embedded within the organization so that they're generating real value, and that there's tangible value, and it's not just a side piece around experimenting with things that are cool. And I think from a data engineering perspective, that's changed in terms of how we collaborate very closely with data scientists to get to that value, and how we have a single tech stack that we can all work on, as well as bringing in much better kind of software engineering discipline into the work that we do, because obviously we're writing production code, and so it's important that these things work within production end to end. So starting with what the data engineers do, and all the way through to what our data scientists do. And for that to really be effective, it has to be a very good partnership with data scientists and with others. In terms of that collaboration, Bhagya, how have you found that at QB? How do you work alongside data scientists, machine learning engineers, designers, product managers, etc., to ensure that we can, deliver to the best that we can?
I think most of the companies does, and as well as our company are doing, like, we are following agile methodology and very strict, and also following a lot of documentation and understanding the protocols of who is doing what. And we are thankful to have QB1, which is like one of the like a portfolio where you can exactly see what's the process you have to follow and who are the people to touch base with and what are the technologies you are talking about. Also, there are a lot of documentation available for the best practices what we are using in the company, and you can be a contributor as well, not only just using what we have developed, what they have developed. Also, you can contribute a lot, and working alongside with the data scientist and the product manager and also with the visual designer, we always go with the approach of like, okay, in the sprint one, these are our deliverables, and there is definitely a strongly defined deliverables around that. Also, we are pushing ourselves into the space where, like, for example, the data engineer is very important to have like a data landscape, build the data landscape in such a way the data scientists understand what they are actually getting, and as well as the visual designers come back to the data engineers always asking for the questions around the data, and the data models are robust in such a way that it is understandable to everyone. And we work very closely using the agile sprint methodology, and as well as we document a lot in Confluence. That's what we are using at the moment. And also use Studio, which is again a QB based product where we are using for the data tracking. I don't know how many data engineers feels data tracking and the data questions are a pain. It's definitely a pain when you have to talk to like 50 to 100 people. Pain and pleasure, I won't say pain because it's my job. So basically tracking those 100 people and understanding 1,000 systems and which are really relevant, and identifying which are the relevant data sets. This can happen only by doing the problem solving along with the data scientists and also the partners who really understand the problem, like what we are trying to solve from the business side, not at the technical side. So with the combination of we all working together doing problem solving, at least we do problem solving like 2 days once, meet for 1 hour and try to understand, like, from the data engineering what did we do, and from data science what's the models they are looking at, and combine together and spin the solution ASAP, like change the data sets what we need to look at it, rather than just going ahead and then doing it like blindly. We just interact with each other a lot. I hope that answers your question too.
Yeah, no, that's great. Thank you. And as you said, you know, we're working side by side with these other disciplines, you know, every day, which is fantastic. And you know, we're strong believers in kind of diversity of perspective to, you know, to solving problems and people bringing different views so that we can attack problems from different ways. And it's not just obviously collaborating in terms of getting to an end goal, but it's a great opportunity to learn from each other. You know, Tom, from your work that you've and the projects that you've been involved in over the last couple of years, you know, how much learning have you been able to extract from, you know, the other disciplines that we get to work with?
Sorry, Toby, you broke up at the last second there, but this is about learning from the other guilds, right?
Yes.
Yeah. It's huge. So my last project was picking up, it was quite a big one. We had an existing code base. It was written by data scientists primarily, and like there was a huge journey to sort of refactor this thing into something to add some new functionality. We had to onboard new people to the project. They had to get understanding about how everything worked, and it's not as simple as just sort of picking it up as a black box and accepting that this is the way it is. You've got to go in there and really understand what these things are doing. So we were sitting there having problem solving sessions with the data scientists, like, okay, so this is how the model's getting trained. Here's how we're dividing the data up. Here's the types of models that we're using. Here's why this feature is more or less appropriate for this model. There was a huge amount of overlap. I had a slightly interesting circumstance where I was actually having to sort of help guide the work streams as well across engineering and science, which meant even more had to be very much involved in the decision-making processes that they had and what they needed to prioritize to be able to deliver their work. It's huge, and the even across all the way up to design and UX. the data that we're feeding to the front end teams has to fit the patterns they need, has to be fit for that purpose. I sitting there in problem solving sessions with like specking out user stories with little Lego people to work out who's going to be the person that would most benefit from this dashboard or from this dashboard, or how do we fulfill the needs of this person. You honestly couldn't escape it if you wanted to. It's a really big melting pot, generally, all these projects. So you just will absorb these things over the course of a project.
And is there a sweet spot where Ds and DSs kind of come together, or is it kind of data engineering doing their work and then kind of handing over to a data scientist?
It's everyone has strengths, right? And we've done some sort of projects lean more to sort of people focusing on their skill set, and other people focus on their skill set. But I think the best comes when the sweet spot, I think, is actually around the feature engineering part, because it's quite interesting, because it's the real moment where the data engineering, we've built this beautiful pipeline of data which pulls everything from all these raw sources into this coherent data model, and we fully understand how everything works. And now, like, the whole world of opportunities opened up for the data science work, and maybe the data just is not remotely appropriate for Python, for example. It's not going to fit in pandas. This is like petabytes of image data or something. And we get to sit with the data scientists in the same room and define what we think appropriate features are. And we can play against each other, sort of, well, the trade-offs for that is it's going to cost about 3 weeks dev time because this is really, really difficult, versus here's maybe the value it's going to add to the model based on some like tactical bits and pieces that they've managed to do with what they do have in terms of resources available. So there's these really interesting conversations coming out about how to sort of feed the data into the model, feed like appropriate data, work out what's the where's the value of it, basically. And those conversations are all sort of super interdisciplinary and a really nice sort of mix up.
No, thank you. And sometimes as an engineer, you can feel a little removed from the ultimate impact of the work that you're doing. And obviously, we're across McKinsey and QuantumBlack, we're very keen to ensure that we're getting to impact and realizing benefit for our clients. Benny, I don't know if on your kind of previous projects and your first project, how close did you feel to the kind of the output and the impact and the benefits that you were creating to the organization that you were working with?
I would say quite closely on this project, but it's so key that you keep up the communication, basically, because as you say, it is a real risk that you have a pipeline to build, you have the skills to do it, you know where the data is, and technically you could probably isolate yourself, but that's not how you do the best job, and that's not how you get the most out of it yourself, right? And so for me, I'm always very interested in the bigger picture. I think a lot of people are, and I find that in my previous projects, that's seen as something very, very positive. So if you show that you want to even contribute like outside of what's technically like usually the DE role, people are very open to that. You can, you're welcome and encouraged to join in kind of these problem solving sessions that we have cross team. So there's so many opportunities for you to understand the bigger picture and for you to contribute your ideas beyond being a data engineer. And so I find the opportunity is there 100%, even more so than what I felt previously in a product company, where you do very much tend to get siloed in kind of your tech bubble. So yeah, opportunity is there, but I do find that you do have to push for it because everyone is so busy. And I think as a new person, I did feel that people were, encouraging me to do it, but I can see how it's really up to your own initiative as well. But if you want to and you have the initiative, there's tons of opportunities for you to contribute kind of outside your tech bubble.
Thank you. And what was the most, talking about kind of studies and projects, Tom, what was the most interesting problem that you've worked on?
Oh, that's an interesting one. Let me think. We've bizarrely, site selection has turned up so many times. This is an interesting problem that we get in a lot of pharmaceuticals. It sounds it sounds incredibly trivial, but it's a bizarre combination of trying to work out how to match, well, you start off with a data set of hospitals, for example, from one system, and a database of clinical trials that have happened in another system, and a database of patients at this one, and then they've all got to somehow join together. And these things are just really badly managed, poor quality data, and it's an incredibly difficult journey to try and pull something coherent from these. And we spent a lot of effort internally trying to sort of crack this nut and build something we can sort of bring forwards from one project to another. So it's kind of, you start with just this problem you want to solve in a short-sighted way, but then you quickly realize this is going to keep coming around and around and around. And so the whole problem of this project starts to pivot a little bit into how can we make this something that I can take from here and bring to the next project. And so sort of, yeah, like address matching and name matching and sort of string matching, fuzzy matching, all these sort of utilities come together into this product that we can sort of like abstract into something quite powerful and leverage elsewhere. It's been a really interesting puzzle to try and toe that balance between delivering the value that we're looking for alongside something that's sort of extensible and well documented that other teams can pick up. It's a really tough challenge to crack.
Thank you. And Bhagya, same question to you really. What's the kind of most interesting study you've been engaged on?
We did so far 10 to 12 studies, I guess, after joining QuantumBlack. So I have two actually, one personal and other one professional. The personal one is finding out the residual values for the cars. It was so exciting for me. I actually happened to hear about the project and said, I want to do this study just because my son is so interested in the cars. So I was like, I just wanted to learn everything about car, and that will happen only if I do the project. In McKinsey and QuantumBlack, if you are doing a project, that means you will know everything about them for sure. So I got to know which cars are good and how to calculate the residual values and the declination and all of that. And I'm talking to my son very happily, like, this is what, oh, I know about this car. This is good and this is not good. I'm actually having a conversation with him that is amazing. And that happened because I did that project. That's personal. And also we built a good pipeline for the client as well. So that's good professionally also. And the other interesting project is I've worked with a traditional bank where they have to change the entire traditional systems into an automated pipeline advanced analytics version, wherein I have to really deal with like 100 to 200 people, getting to know about the system, core systems, and then build the data science models out of it and find out what are the problems which are interested for the business and as well as interested which are applicable for the advanced analytics, wherein dealing with terabytes of data and working together with the team. And it's very challenging. Like in 8 weeks of time, we solved the problem, also build the pipeline, which is ready for the production, which is like incredible. And it gives me a lot of good experience and very good team as well. Yeah, and I learned a lot like around that. Like though it's a prototyping, it's very important to do testing. Like implementing the testing within the pipeline is quite key, and as well as doing automation and building the capability building within the client is also a key. So these are the three things which followed a lot, and as well as along with that process, maintaining the good process techniques, what was there from the experience, also which are going to be implemented for the future. So yeah, that's the second project I enjoyed a lot, and that became a little bit of like a reusable study as well for the future. So I could easily do the customer churn and also the Salesforce effectiveness. So yeah, these are my
Thank you, thank you. We've had a few questions around this as well, and you know, we're very lucky again in that through our relationship with well, through being part of McKinsey, I should say, you know, we have access to lots of very interesting client problems, working across financial services, banking and insurance, pharma and healthcare, telco, sport. We've done some very interesting projects in the world of sport.
I was going to say, we're lucky we haven't got anyone from the motorsport race strategy team here, because they'd make us all look very boring.
Formula One.
Yeah. No, I know, and others too. And in advanced industries and mining are the biggest problems across those different industries. So I was getting a pop up there that my internet connection was unstable. So hopefully you can still hear me. Good. What have, you know, being at QB, what have you found to be your, you know, the biggest challenges? Tom, I don't know if you can speak around this. You know, we talked about a lot of the positives, but where have you, you know, what has been challenging for you, and kind of how have you overcome it? And you know, if you could comment on that.
Yeah, I think there's a sort of an expectation when QuantumBlack turns up to deliver a project that it's going to be something that's just incredible. There's unlimited expectations for what this thing is going to deliver in terms of value for the business, and so there's often a lot of pressure applied to produce something up to what's expected. And this comes in a few different sort of forms. There's often a balance between what the work you're doing right now is and what's going to be happening next week and what's going to be happening the week after. We might have a short-term view. We want to build this tactical product that's going to sort of be the first step towards some beautiful production application. But in the meantime, there's 3 partners who are really keen to start these other use cases working. They know you've got your teeth into the data, and they've got a lot of questions about what's in there, and kind of juggling these sort of, oh, maybe we could also, can you, while you're in there, can you just, maybe this is an option. Can you just, maybe if this might work or something. So there's a lot of trying to bat people away in the nicest way possible to keep things on track. But yeah, it's not a bad problem to have. It's sort of, you're in demand. You just got to work out how to balance the workload nicely and know what you can and can't achieve in a week, basically. So yeah, that's probably the hardest part I find.
Thank you. And looking ahead, kind of in 2020, Benny, what do you think the challenges are for the DE Guild? You know, what challenges are you most excited about overcoming and confronting and taking on?
All right, that's a good one. So I think, I mean, there's so many opportunities basically for the DE Guild right now. Like someone said before, it's kind of hard to pin down an exact definition of what a data engineer is right now. And we can use that to our advantage. And I think what I'm most excited about for the coming year is that we're going to be quite explicit about the fact that if, you know, there's these specializations basically that you can do as a data engineer. So if you, for example, if you're more interested in or interested to work really closely with data science or machine learning engineering, architecture, like all of these different flavors will help you do that. So, you know, help you find the training that you need, maybe studies that, you know, will help you basically grow in that direction. So yeah, I'm just super excited about the DE role evolving to be kind of more a holistic engineering role. So you know, software engineering skills, for example, is becoming so important, and just generally kind of the lines blurring a bit between software engineering, data science, and data engineering.
Oh, thank you. And you're talking about the, you know, how the data engineering role is changing and getting involved in other areas. And I guess within the guild, we look for pure software engineers. We look for more traditional kind of data experts and engineers, and then also you know, we look for data scientists that enjoy the data engineering role. You know, do you think that there's a place to bring more data science into kind of how we do data engineering, Benny?
Oh, I think so, for sure. I think the DEDS role is just really, really blurring. And I think, as we can see in our studies, we work so closely with the data scientists, right? And I would say most data engineers really enjoy data science as well, and increasingly, are taking courses on it. And I know quite a bit of kind of basic data science. And then in parallel, data scientists are actually becoming quite good engineers. And so we're meeting in the middle. And I think that's only a good thing, right? It becomes easier to solve the problem when we understand where each other is coming from. So I think that's just something that we embrace. And I think, yeah, definitely we'll see a lot more data science in the DE role.
I just wanted to add one point on top of that. There are so many people who are actually coming to the meetups who are data scientists. We're telling like, oh, we were thinking we are doing data science. Actually, this is data engineering. So yeah, it's like a lot of people came to me and said that. So yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, what do they say? 80% of data science is data engineering. So don't tell the data scientists, but I think we're really the heroes of analytics. But I would obviously be slightly biased in that. No, I think it's a great sweet spot when the two disciplines come together, and you can do really exciting work there. We talked a lot about collaboration, and that's clearly very important. And we've talked about it in terms of these disciplines getting together to solve problems, but kind of just stepping out of the problem solving and the kind of the client services world. Just in terms of the general culture at QB, what would you say about that, Bhagya, in terms of initiatives that are going on and the general feel of the place?
Right. If I compare last 3 years, there has been a lot of changes. Like we started looking at products now more and more, and also the client capability became more and more. The reason being, we the clients are seeing us as an experts because we already solved a lot of problems in the space where they are right now getting to start as well, and as well as what the good thing and the best thing about QuantumBlack is, when we solve a problem, we don't really move out of it and then say, okay, we are done with it, let's look into the other problem. We try to see like what are our learnings and try to make an effort to make some reusable asset out of that. I really love that point. And also for the clients also, like whenever we meet the clients, also whenever we have meetings with the clients, they ask like, okay, have you done this one in another industry or with another client? Would that work? They try to actually ask us how is your experience, and can you share some insights out of that? Also, is this technology is really working or not? And the good thing and the best thing about QB is like we always go with an like a approach of saying yes and no. When we don't know, we say we don't know, and when we know, we definitely come up with the facts and have a knowledge repository. Like, okay, this is what we have done, and it's working so good, and we believe this is working. So we try to push for the best, and we try to get the best out of the clients as well. So I have that is what I think the good essence of QB, and as well as the clients are trusting us well. For example, recently we started using IDE a lot, like PyCharm a lot, and we are seeing the benefit of constructing the pipelines a lot quicker than earlier. And the clients also started believing that after we said, okay, this is working, can you look into it? Of course, it's not an easy conversation. We have to prove and explain to them what is going on, but still they are happy to actually encourage us and then look at the facts, and they are also coming to our way, and the client capability become more and more as well. They are using traditional SQL, and now getting into Python and PySpark is not easy, but everyone is realizing that, and they're also happy to work along with us. So I would say, yeah, the evolution is great, and the assets and products what the QE is making is going to change the world. And yeah,
thank you,
very excited.
And just stepping out of kind of our day-to-day work, what other initiatives are there, Tom, that you've seen that QB is driving, in terms of diversity and inclusion and the kind of the general culture?
Yeah,
Sorry, Tom.
do
Go for
you want to go?
No, 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 go for it.
All right.
Oh,
Lost Tom.
Energy in that
You go
direction
back.
is.
just to,
Am I breaking up?
yeah, you've got you back now, Tom.
I'll start again. Yeah, so QB just seems to have boundless energy for this. We have a culture club, culture with a Q, that's important, who are basically just constantly driving this. It's not just about work. There's a philosophy within the company. We are an inclusive team. We have all these sort of activities to support sort of honestly, I think there's not a month that goes by without a holiday from one particular region, which ends up with the entire office decorated in a colour or something, or some outrageous food products all over the tables. It's a big melting pot of cultures, and it's a constant celebration of that, I think, through this culture club. And things like, we have a little festival thing where the whole company gets together each year to sort of to celebrate and just look back at the year and celebrate everyone and how well everyone's done. It's there's a lot more to it than just sitting behind a laptop.
and making everything start with a Q as well is
that is important.
And Benny, you recently joined. What's kind of your experience of the culture, right? How, what would your reflections and observations be?
Well, I totally agree with what Bhagya and Tom are saying. I think it's just a really good group of people, to be honest. And coming from kind of a startup world where usually there's a huge social aspect to it. Good group of people. You kind of wonder going to consultancy if it's going to be the same, and can't lie. But it's really good. It's just people who are really friendly, really open. It's been a pleasure, really. And I think everyone just wants you to succeed as well. I find maybe that's actually something that I hadn't really seen before, where it's that culture that everyone wants to help you to get to your best. And so that's quite unique and something I really enjoyed.
Great. Well, no, thank you. I want to get to the live questions soon to make sure that we're answering, what everyone is asking us. But before we get there, just finally, what do you look for in a data engineer at QuantumBlack? What would the key traits be for someone that would want to be a data engineer at QuantumBlack? And I'm going to ask you all that question, but starting with you, Benny.
Oh, okay. So I think willingness to learn is a big one. I don't think it doesn't matter exactly what tech stack you're used to or exactly what background you have, but just I think an eye for kind of quality software is important, increasingly important. So that you have an interest in software engineering and an interest to learn, I would say, and collaborative is very important. So with these teams that we work in, you've got to be willing to kind of work with people who are different than you and who have a different background to you. And basically that's you're not going to be working in like a little bubble with data engineers just like you. And so that has to be something that you think would kind of drive you, I would say.
Thank you. Tom, what would you when you're kind of interviewing, what are you looking for in people in terms of successful data engineers at QuantumBlack?
I'd really echo what Benno said, especially around quality. We've got a real push at the minute to try and shift to these very well structured, well tested, more software engineering practices, and educating the rest of the guilds as well, while we're showing them what best practice looks like. And it's not something that's easy to find, someone who knows everything there is to know about data processing, but also knows how to run PyTest and what a CI/CD process looks like. It's a really challenging thing to find, so it's quite hard to hire for engineering. And then if you I mean, if I'm asking about my perfect engineer, I'm also asking if how well can they basically ask why about the problem? Are they going to challenge the from knows everything there is to know about this business process and say, I think this is a good or a bad idea based on my understanding of the data. You need to be able to sort of think about the realistic practicalities and what the business value is behind what you're doing, as much as you do the depth of technical knowledge. So yeah, so it's horrible. It's really broad, and it's a really difficult thing to master.
Bagya.
Yeah, if you think you can work with the industry best experts and wanted to learn a lot and push yourself and wanted to be a best data engineer, I would say this is the place. And what we look for data engineering is all what Bene and Tom has echoed, the same thing, plus having a data architectural skill as well. Like all these, any of these four, like software engineering, MLE, or like machine learning engineering, and then the product based, any of this, but you need to have keen to learn nature.
Yeah, thank you. And I think from my perspective, it's I think you've all described it kind of very well, and I'm super excited by people that are curious. To your point, Tom, people that are going to kind of question, why are we doing this? How is this helping kind of solve a business problem? As well as those that are excited by kind of technology innovation and are going to be entrepreneurial around, going to conferences, finding exciting new technologies, new ways of doing things, and wanting to kind of be responsible and own how they may be relevant to the work that we do, and bringing in new and interesting perspectives. I think is a really important trait, and I think we see a lot of that within QB as well. Brilliant. All right. I don't want to get to time before we address some of the brilliant questions that people have been asking. So thank you for typing those in. Hopefully we've touched on most of them, but a couple of questions on technology that I just want to make sure we explicitly answer. Around, how are we using the cloud, and do we mainly rely on open source kind of tech products? Tom, I don't know if you want to take that one.
Yeah, certainly. We are bound a little bit by what the client's infrastructure is. That's often a big deciding factor in this. But more and more we see clients who are pushing towards using cloud infrastructure. We've worked with banks who have got sort of on-prem setups, big Hadoop systems, which are generally quite unwieldy and difficult to manage, but that's the way that these very sort of risk-averse companies like to live. But equally, we have some more, let's say, progressive companies who do everything in the cloud. Like, for example, the project I'm on now is all based on Amazon workspaces using AWS clusters. We've got EC2 machines for the whole team. Everyone works completely on through this remote system, and honestly, it's fantastic.
Great, thank you. I don't know if you've finished or if your internet connection has dropped.
Sorry, my connection's terrible here, is it? Apologies. I don't know where we got to there, but yeah, I'll say we are using cloud infrastructure wherever we can. So we often try and push the client towards it because it does make our life a lot easier. We've got products delivered in AWS, Azure, and now GCP as well, I think. So it's it's a textbook skill set for an engineer.
Great. Thank you. And I'll do one more question before we wrap up, which is someone is asking about sports analytics and how is data helping improve performance in team sports like F1 football, and how does data engineering help in achieving these goals? Well, obviously we can't go into too much detail, unfortunately, but we've done a lot of things around injury prediction and around optimizing kind of race strategy, as well as some design projects around how you can bring to life the output of data science and models to, you know, to people that are watching sports as well. So across the spectrum. And, you know, data engineers are always in there seeing what data we can use to solve these problems and bringing them together to build those data foundations, and working closely with data scientists to get to interesting insight.
Maybe adding on that, we did use the streaming data Kafka as well, so to analyze the data. Just to
Yes,
add.
thank you. Well, I think that's about it. So just a big thank you to everyone for tuning in. I hope that's been informative and insightful. A huge thank you to Bagya, Tom and Benny for taking the time to share their perspectives and thoughts on QB. I hope you have enjoyed the session, and hope you're interested in becoming part of the QB family. You know, we're looking for data engineers globally. Do have a look on the McKinsey website, and if you're interested in what you've heard, please do reach out. A big thank you from me, and everyone enjoy the rest of your week and have a fantastic weekend. Thank you.